Rank up! Oh, and I got one and done. How poetic. Alright, let's go play some FF6. Just poetic way to cap that, really. So, the City of the Wolves beta happened just over this past weekend, and it's been a pretty cool experience getting on and finally being able to play the game after hearing a lot of good things. You know, it's hard for anybody to just kind of travel out and play at the local test, so finally getting our hands on it and getting into the beta was pretty nice. I have a few remarks I want to make about it. I guess up front I'll go ahead and say that my first impression of the game is relatively good. However, I'm probably not going to be buying the game at launch, and there's two major reasons for this. The first up is that I just don't want to add another fighting game into my rotation at the moment. I'm having a good time with Granblue and Street Fighter, and even though I've stopped playing Strive, I'm still looking at news and want to get back into it if they make the changes that I wanted to see. The second reason is that SNK has had kind of this weird track record lately, and some of the stuff has been recurring already in the beta regarding that track record. This is namely, and you've probably heard about this before, but the matchmaking issues in City of the Wolves strongly reflect what happened in King of Fighters 15 when that launched, and it took a long time for them to resolve the issues in KOF 15. If I recall, it was a little over half a year before they even acknowledged it in any capacity, and then it was either just under or just over a year before there was a patch helping it out, and the game had long since dropped off in terms of players and viewers at that point, and was a little rough to see because KOF 15 is a lot of fun. The same kind of issue started appearing in City of the Wolves. I guess I'm going to break this down a bit by bit. I want to go over what was good about the City of the Wolves beta right away, at least, you know, in my opinion. So, I think the gameplay is phenomenal. The game feels very responsive, it feels very snappy, fun to play. The systems that were introduced, so the rev button and breaks in particular, feel really good. Feints feel a little awkward, but I think that would go away if you had access to training mode. I think there's a lot of things that would get ironed out a bit just by getting access to training mode. The characters all feel really fun. I once again ended up playing Mai for the most part. I'm just, you know, figuring out I really do enjoy this character across multiple franchises at this point, so player in KOF, player in City of the Wolves now, player in Street Fighter. Just turns out I probably like the character. I think the things that are rough about the beta, a lot of people have already talked about. There's the matchmaking issues, and I saw a little bit of this. It was taking a couple minutes per match, which is weird, especially given the number of people playing. I also tried to set up like a makeshift training mode because I had my PlayStation and my PC, so I downloaded the beta on both, but they couldn't find each other despite being sat right next to each other and on the same network. I was just unable to find anything. You know, luckily, because I stream, I was able to ask one of my viewers, Smiley, and we ended up having like a decently long training mode session in a lobby. Just being able to press some buttons and figure some stuff out. I think that was another big detractor, speaking of the training mode thing. I think the speculation is that they didn't want to include it because they were afraid of people cracking it, which ended up happening already, but I don't think there's been any official word on why they didn't include it. I think it's just all speculation. No training mode and the tutorial being a bit rough. That was not great. The tutorial's like passable at best, I think, is the way to look at it. It does its job of telling you what the buttons are, but I don't think it really gives you too clear of use cases for them. And then once again, if you want to play a character other than Rock, you really don't know what to do. Back to the good stuff. I think all the system mechanics make sense. SPG and Feints probably feel a little bit weird, but I actually like the idea of having a quote-unquote comeback factor in SPG that you can put anywhere on your health bar. So you can start off with a lot of power, you can wait for a big comeback, you can have it in the middle, which makes it like pretty hard to not activate. Which sounds weird because if you put it up front, it's active right at the start of the round and it's like guaranteed. But I think having it in the middle is like a pretty okay option. I think they're all decent options. I ended up putting it at the end of my health bar by the time I had finished my play sessions, because I like the idea. I think I was watching like a JM Crofts impression, and he mentioned putting it at the back because he liked the idea of a comeback factor, and I'm like, oh, I like having a comeback factor, that makes sense. Then I started doing it, and I thought it felt pretty nice. Then after SPG, there's stuff like the Rev Gauge, which I think looks a little weird at first because it's like a meter that builds up and then you're in Burnout. And if you're coming from Street Fighter 6, like the easy way people were trying to say to think of it is like reverse drive gauge. But I think it's actually pretty easy to comprehend, and there's some bits of it that work, like tension from Guilty Gear, so that made sense, like putting it on cooldown by moving forward or taking offensive actions, like that makes sense to me. It sounded unintuitive at first, and then after like a single match where I was using EX moves, I was like, oh, I get it. Which is exactly how it clicked for the drive system for me for Street Fighter 6 as well. And it's very similar. There's a lot of similarities that get made to Street Fighter 6, but the implementation feels a lot different just because of the way like lights work in this game, where they're more plus on block and a little bit harder to confirm into, whereas lights in like Street Fighter 6 are actually minus on block, even though they can be chained into each other. Whenever you end the chain, you're typically minus. So like there's these little things that do make it pretty different. So I think I need to talk about some of the stuff surrounding the SNK not having a good track record statement that I made earlier. And this is in a large part due to the KOF 15 thing that I talked about, the matchmaking not getting fixed for a very long time. But something else also recently happened that helped kind of reinforce this point, and that was the KOF 13 Rollback Edition released on Steam. And it's a very weird thing. It released on the same day as the City of the Wolves beta, and you probably missed out. If you're not in the know, you probably just missed out because there's very little coverage for its release. It's also kind of an awkward package because it is essentially the online edition that was available before and was taken off the Steam store page, and now it's been fitted with rollback and put back on, which sounds great, but it's not a free upgrade. Even if you own the previous edition, you get a small discount, but it's still just like a weird thing to retrofit an older game and then have it cost money. And then on top of that, the rollback doesn't work. The game is in essentially a non-functioning state online again, and there's no real news about an update. I know that this is a really recent thing, but it's so just mind-boggling, really, and doesn't give me a lot of faith. I know that regarding City of the Wolves, there was actually a post made that I'll put up on screen. I believe it was from the game's director saying, hey, we've heard about the matchmaking issues. We don't have time to fix them during this beta, but we're looking into doing another beta with them fixed, which is great. That's a huge, good step. I love seeing communication from the developers because it's very often that we just don't get that, especially coming from like ArcSys games. That's been a very recent thing that we get some form of communication, because usually we just kind of get stonewalled out and then get a bunch of info at once and then we're stonewalled out again, and it's very frustrating. So seeing any amount of communication I'm really happy for, but it does just make me worry. There's been a lot of people asking for the game to be delayed on social media. I just don't see that happening. The game's already confirmed for EWC and EVO. I don't think they're going to be looking to delay it, and I think with the time remaining, any major changes aren't going to happen. There's been, a lot of complaints with the UI, or people want new stuff in the button mapping to happen. Like being able to map feints, for example, is a pretty common suggestion. I don't see any of that happening. I think working on the back end and handling the matchmaking, they might be able to fix that. But any UI updates, which the UI I think actually looks fine. I actually like the look of the UI. I might be in the minority there, but it is a little sluggish and like slow to navigate around. And there's this weird thing in lobbies where there is a cursor available, but you can't move it with your mouse. It's only moved with the controller. So all sorts of just weird functionality issues with the UI. So I don't see any of that getting fixed, though. I don't think there's enough time, and I don't think there's enough incentive for them to fix it and delay it and potentially jeopardize their position with the EWC or EVO or the competitive side that they've already agreed to and kind of taken care of on that side of things. But that also means that, the player base is most likely going to be affected again, and just given the recent stings from KOF 15 and KOF 13, I don't see enough incentive to buy the game on launch at the moment. I don't think enough of these revolving issues or surrounding issues will be taken care of necessarily. And even though the gameplay is great, having a mess of these things around it is just rough, and it makes it not appealing to pick up. So I think I'll be sticking with Grand Blue for right now. Their Season 2 is coming up soon. But yeah, that's been my impressions and what I think I'm going to be doing regarding City of the Wolves. It's a fun game, but there's too much surrounding it, and I need to... I personally feel the need to hold off for right now until I can see that SNK as a developer is willing to take those steps to correct this stuff ahead of time. And I'm just not 100% sure if they are going to be able to do that in the time frame they have set up. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the beta in the comments below, and like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. I will see you in the next video. Alright, have a good one, everybody. Goodbye.